First contact deception. The night sky over New Mexico erupted in a brilliant flash, momentarily turning darkness into day. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, lead astronomer at the Sunspot Solar Observatory, nearly spilled her coffee as she jolted upright in her chair. Her eyes darted to the bank of monitors before her, each displaying readings that defied explanation. "What in the world?" she muttered, fingers flying across her keyboard. The observatory's advanced sensors were picking up energy signatures unlike anything she'd seen before. Whatever had just entered Earth's atmosphere was no meteor or piece of space junk. As Elena scrambled to make sense of the data, her phone buzzed insistently. She answered without taking her eyes off the screens. "Rodriguez. Dr. Rodriguez, this is General Hammond of the Joint Chiefs. I need you to listen carefully and confirm you're alone." Elena's breath caught in her throat. A call from the Joint Chiefs at 2 a.m. could only mean one thing. Whatever she'd just witnessed was far more significant than she'd imagined. "I'm alone, General. What's going on?" "We've tracked an object of unknown origin entering the atmosphere over your location. I need you to gather any data you've collected and prepare for immediate evacuation. A team will be there in 10 minutes. Before Elena could respond, the line went dead. Her mind raced as she quickly began downloading the observatory's sensor logs onto a secure drive. Just as she finished, the distant sound of helicopter rotors cut through the night air. Within moments, Elena found herself aboard a military chopper, clutching her laptop as they sped towards an undisclosed location. The normally chatty scientist sat in stunned silence, trying to process the whirlwind of events. Hours later, Elena stood in a makeshift command center, surrounded by top military brass and fellow scientists from various disciplines. The tension in the air was palpable as they all stared at the grainy footage on the main screen. The video, captured by a classified satellite, showed a sleek, otherworldly craft plummeting through the atmosphere, trailing blue-green fire. It skipped across the desert floor like a stone on water before coming to rest in a remote area of the White Sands Missile Range. "Ladies and gentlemen," General Hammond addressed the room, his voice grave. "What you're looking at is indisputable proof that we are not alone in the universe. As of 200 hours this morning, we have been in a state of first contact with an extraterrestrial species." A collective gasp rippled through the assembled group. Elena felt her head spin as the implications sank in. Everything she thought she knew about the universe had just been upended. "Dr. Rodriguez," the general continued, fixing her with a stern gaze, "your data suggests this craft used technology far beyond our current understanding. We need you to work with our team to analyze every scrap of information we have." Elena nodded, still too overwhelmed to speak. As the briefing continued, she learned that a recovery team had already been dispatched to the crash site. The craft's lone occupant, critically injured but alive, was being transported to a secure medical facility nearby. Days blurred together as Elena worked around the clock with a team of the world's brightest minds. They pored over every piece of data, every fragment of the alien ship, searching for answers. The craft's hull was composed of materials unknown to Earth science, and its propulsion system defied the laws of physics as they understood them. But it was the ship's pilot that presented the greatest mystery and the greatest hope. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the xenobiologist in charge of the aliens' care, burst into the research lab one morning, her eyes wide with excitement. "It's conscious, and it's asking for someone named Zora." Elena exchanged puzzled glances with her colleagues. "Zara? That's not anyone on our team." "No," Yuki agreed, "but the alien became very agitated when we couldn't produce this Zora. It's insisting that it has a vital message to deliver." General Hammond, who had been overseeing the project, made a swift decision. "Dr. Rodriguez, Dr. Tanaka, you're with me. Let's see if we can communicate with our guest." The secure medical bay was a flurry of activity when they arrived. Monitors beeped steadily, displaying vital signs that barely resembled anything human. On the bed lay a being that seemed both familiar and utterly alien, humanoid in shape, but with iridescent blue skin and large almond-shaped eyes that shimmered like oil on water. As Elena approached, those eyes locked onto her with an intensity that made her step falter. The alien's mouth moved, forming sounds that were almost, but not quite, words. "Zara," it managed to croak out. Elena felt a strange tingling sensation at the base of her skull. "I'm not Zara," she said softly, "but I'm here to help. Can you understand me?" The alien's eyes widened, and suddenly, Elena's world exploded into a kaleidoscope of images and sensations. She gasped, staggering backward as her mind was flooded with information. Star charts, advanced equations, blueprints for technology beyond her wildest dreams. And threaded through it all, a warning. A terrible, urgent warning. "They're coming," Elena whispered, her voice trembling as the alien's message became clear in her mind. "An empire that spans the galaxy. They've detected our radio signals, our space exploration efforts. Earth has been marked for annexation or destruction." The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. General Hammond was the first to recover, his face ashen. "How long do we have?" Elena shook her head, still reeling from the alien's mental download. "A few years at most. But they've given us a chance." She gestured to the alien, who had slipped back into unconsciousness. "This being, it's a rebel, part of a resistance movement within the Empire. It came here to warn us, to give us the knowledge we need to defend ourselves." Dr. Tanaka's medical equipment began to wail. "We're losing it," she cried, rushing to the alien's side. Despite their best efforts, the being's life signs rapidly deteriorated. With one last, piercing look at Elena, the alien shuddered and fell still. As the medical team fought in vain to revive their extraterrestrial visitor, Elena sank into a nearby chair, her head pounding with the vast repository of knowledge that had been thrust upon her. Equations for faster-than-light travel danced behind her eyelids. Schematics for weapons that could level mountains flitted through her thoughts. "Doctor," General Hammond's voice cut through her daze. "What exactly did our friend share with you?" Elena looked up, her eyes filled with a mixture of wonder and terror. "Everything, General. It gave us everything we need to stand a chance against the coming storm. But we have to act fast." She stood, a new determination settling over her features. "Gather every scientist, every engineer, every brilliant mind we can trust. We have work to do." As the gravity of the situation settled over the room, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that the fate of humanity now rested on her shoulders. The alien had chosen her, for reasons she couldn't fathom, to be the vessel for this world-changing knowledge. She only hoped it would be enough. In the days that followed, a global conspiracy of unprecedented scale began to take shape. World leaders were quietly briefed, resources were reallocated, and secret facilities were established across the planet, all while the public remained blissfully unaware of the monumental shifts occurring behind the scenes. For Elena Rodriguez, the young astronomer who had gazed at the stars and dreamed of making contact, life would never be the same. As she stood at the heart of humanity's feverish preparations, she couldn't help but wonder, had the alien's gift been one of salvation, or had it merely postponed the inevitable? Only time would tell. And time, as they all now knew, was in terrifyingly short supply. Racing against time, Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a wall of screens, each displaying a different facet of humanity's desperate race against extinction. 6 months had passed since her fateful encounter with the dying alien, and every day since had been a blur of frantic activity. "Dr. Rodriguez," a voice called from behind her. She turned to see Dr. Amit Patel, the quantum computing specialist she'd handpicked for the project. "We've made a breakthrough with the propulsion equations. I think we can achieve FTL travel within the next year." Elena nodded, a mixture of excitement and exhaustion etched on her face. "Excellent work, Amit. Get with Dr. Chen's team and start on a prototype immediately." As Amit hurried off, Elena allowed herself a moment to marvel at the progress they'd made. The knowledge gifted to her by the alien visitor had accelerated Earth's technological development by centuries, if not millennia. But would it be enough? Her reverie was interrupted by the arrival of General Hammond, his face grim. "Doctor, we have a situation. Walk with me." As they strode through the labyrinthine corridors of the underground facility, Hammond spoke in hushed tones. "Our deep space monitoring stations picked up an anomaly at the edge of the solar system. We think it might be an Imperial probe." Elena's blood ran cold. "Already? But we're not ready. We need more time." "Time isn't a luxury we have, Doctor," Hammond replied, ushering her into a secure briefing room. Inside, holographic displays showed a small, sleek object drifting past Neptune's orbit. "If that probe reports back to the Empire about our level of technology, they'll realize we're advancing far too quickly," Elena mused, her mind racing. "They'll move up their timetable for invasion." Hammond nodded grimly. "Exactly. We need options, Doctor. How do we neutralize this threat without tipping our hand?" Elena closed her eyes, accessing the vast repository of alien knowledge in her mind. After a moment, her eyes snapped open. "I have an idea, but it's risky. We'll need to accelerate the development of our stealth technology." Over the next 72 hours, Elena barely slept as she worked with a hand-picked team to modify a prototype spacecraft with experimental cloaking technology. The plan was audacious. They would intercept the probe, disable it, and make it look like a malfunction. As the specially designed ship, christened the Shadow Dancer, prepared for launch, Elena paced nervously in the control room. This would be humanity's first venture beyond the moon using the new technology. If they failed, Earth's chances of survival would plummet. "Shadow Dancer, you are cleared for launch," the mission controller announced. Elena held her breath as the sleek black craft rose silently from its underground hangar, invisible to all but the most advanced sensors. Hours ticked by as the Shadow Dancer made its way through the solar system at unprecedented speed. Elena and her team watched anxiously as it approached the alien probe. "We have visual contact," the pilot's voice crackled over the comm. "Initiating electronic warfare suite." For several tense minutes, there was silence. Then, target neutralized. No signs of distress signal sent, bringing it in for analysis. A cheer went up in the control room, but Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they'd just taken their first steps into a much larger conflict. As days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the pace of development only intensified. Hidden factories sprang up in remote locations around the globe, churning out advanced weaponry and spacecraft. The Mariana Trench became home to a vast underwater shipyard, while the far side of the moon hosted a top-secret research station. But keeping such a massive operation under wraps was proving increasingly difficult. "We've got another problem," General Hammond announced during one of their daily briefings. "A reporter for the New York Times is asking questions about unusual energy signatures detected in the Mojave Desert. We're running out of cover stories." Elena sighed, rubbing her temples. The stress of keeping the impending invasion a secret was taking its toll on all of them. "Maybe it's time we considered bringing the public into the loop," she suggested, not for the first time. "Out of the question," snapped Defense Secretary Callahan, joining the conversation via hologram. "The panic would be unmanageable. We need to maintain order until we're ready to face this threat head-on." "And when will that be?" Elena challenged, her frustration boiling over. "We're making incredible progress, but the Empire could arrive at any moment. The people deserve to know what's coming." The argument was cut short by an urgent alert. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, now heading the xenobiology department, appeared on screen. "We've decoded more of the aliens' genetic memory," she reported excitedly. "There's information about the Empire's physiology, including some critical vulnerabilities we might be able to exploit." This revelation sparked a heated debate about the ethics of biological warfare. Elena found herself torn between the desperate need to protect humanity and the moral implications of using such weapons. As the discussion raged on, a young technician burst into the room, his face pale. "Doctors, General, you need to see this." He pulled up a video feed on the main screen. It showed a teenage girl, her hands shaking as she held up a strange iridescent feather to her smartphone camera. "I found this in the woods behind my house." The girl's voice wavered with excitement and fear. "I don't think it's from Earth. Are aliens real?" The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The video had already gone viral, with millions of views and countless conspiracy theories sprouting up in the comments. "Well," Alina said quietly, "it seems the decision about going public might have just been made for us." The next 48 hours were chaos. As the video spread like wildfire across social media, more sightings of unusual phenomena began pouring in from around the globe. The secret of humanity's impending confrontation with an alien empire was rapidly unraveling. World leaders scrambled to craft a unified response, while Alina and her team worked tirelessly to prepare a comprehensive briefing on the situation. The delicate balance they'd been maintaining for months had finally tipped. As Alina stood before a bank of cameras, preparing to address the world and reveal the truth about humanity's precarious position, she couldn't help but think of the alien who had given its life to warn them. Had this been part of its plan all along, to force humanity out of complacency and into action? "People of Earth," she began, her voice steady despite the gravity of her words, "I come before you today with news that will forever change our understanding of our place in the universe. We are not alone, and we are not safe." As Alina laid out the stark reality of the situation, the impending invasion, the desperate race to prepare Earth's defenses, and the sacrifices that would be required of every person on the planet, she could almost feel the collective shock rippling across the globe. But as she continued, detailing the incredible advancements humanity had made and the hope they represented, she saw something else growing in the eyes of those around her and in the faces on screens showing crowds gathered in cities worldwide. Determination. "We stand at the precipice of the greatest challenge our species has ever faced," Alina concluded, her voice ringing with conviction. "But I have seen what we can accomplish when we work together. The road ahead will be difficult, but I believe that humanity is equal to this task. Together, we will meet this threat, and we will prevail." As she stepped away from the podium, Alina knew that nothing would ever be the same. The clock was ticking, the enemy was approaching, and humanity's future hung in the balance. But for the first time since this all began, she felt a glimmer of real hope. The race against time had become a sprint, with the entire human race now running together towards an uncertain future. The bluff of the century. The vast chamber beneath the Rocky Mountains buzzed with nervous energy. Holographic displays flickered with real-time data from Earth's hastily assembled defense network, while grim-faced military personnel scurried about their duties. At the center of it all stood Dr. Alina Rodriguez, her eyes fixed on the main screen showing a massive object decelerating as it approached Earth orbit. "Status report," barked General Hammond, striding into the room. "The Imperial Envoy ship will achieve stable orbit in approximately 30 minutes, Alina replied, her voice steady despite the fear churning in her stomach. "All systems are go for Operation Trojan Horse." Hammond nodded, his weathered face betraying a mix of determination and doubt. "Let's hope this crazy plan of yours works, Doctor. The fate of humanity is riding on it." Alina allowed herself a grim smile. "Crazy is all we got left, General." As the Imperial ship grew larger on the display, Alina's mind raced back over the events of the past few weeks. The public revelation of the alien threat had initially caused widespread panic, but it had quickly galvanized humanity in a way she'd never thought possible. Nations set aside old grudges, pooling resources and manpower in a desperate bid to prepare for the coming storm. But despite their best efforts, Earth was far from ready for a direct confrontation. That's when Alina had proposed her audacious plan, a global deception on an unprecedented scale. A gentle hand on her shoulder broke Alina from her reverie. She turned to see Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a sad smile on her face. "The bioengineering team is ready," Yuki said softly, "though I still have reservations about this plan." Elena nodded, understanding her friend's concerns. The ethical implications of what they were about to do weighed heavily on all of them. "I know, Yuki. But if this works, we buy ourselves the time we need to complete our defenses. If it fails—" She left the thought unfinished, the consequences too terrible to voice. An alarm blared, and all eyes turned to the main screen. The Imperial ship had assumed a geosynchronous orbit over the United Nations headquarters in New York. "Right on schedule," muttered Hammond. He keyed his comm link. "All stations, this is Mountain Home Actual. Operation Trojan Horse is a go. I say again, Trojan Horse is a go." Around the world, hidden mechanisms whirred to life. Holographic projectors, far more advanced than anything publicly known, activated in every major city. The skylines of New York, London, Tokyo, and dozens of other metropolises shimmered and changed, assuming the appearance of far less developed urban centers. In orbit, a network of satellites began broadcasting carefully crafted radio signals, masking the true extent of Earth's technology. To any observing alien eyes, the planet would appear to be a primitive world on the cusp of spaceflight, ripe for conquest or assimilation. "Incoming transmission from the Imperial vessel," announced a communications officer. Elena took a deep breath, straightening her jacket. This was it. The moment of truth. Put it through. The main screen flickered, and a figure appeared that made Elena's blood run cold. The alien bore a striking resemblance to the being that had crashed months ago, but where that creature had seemed desperate and afraid, this one radiated arrogance and disdain. "People of Earth," the alien's voice boomed, translated in real time by the AI systems Elena's team had developed. "I am Zarkesh, emissary of the Galactic Imperium. Your world has been noted as a potential addition to our glorious empire. Prepare your leaders to receive us and discuss the terms of your integration." Elena stepped forward, praying that her voice wouldn't betray her fear. "Greetings, emissary Zarkesh. I am Dr. Elena Rodriguez, chosen to speak on behalf of Earth. We are honored by your presence and eagerly await the opportunity to learn from your advanced civilization." The alien's multifaceted eyes narrowed, studying Elena intently. For a heart-stopping moment, she feared their ruse had been detected. But then Zarkesh's mandibles clicked in what she hoped was approval. "Very well," the emissary replied. "We shall descend to your world in 3 of your planetary rotations. Prepare a suitable reception." As the transmission cut off, a collective exhale seemed to ripple through the command center. They had passed the first test, but the real challenge was yet to come. The next 72 hours were a whirlwind of activity, while the world's military forces scrambled to hide any signs of advanced technology. A massive effort was underway to stage the most convincing display of primitive culture ever conceived. In New York, the UN building was hastily redecorated to resemble a grand palace, filled with deliberately archaic technology and grandiose but functionally useless artifacts. World leaders were coached in how to appear suitably awed and subservient to their alien betters. Meanwhile, deep beneath the surface and in hidden lunar bases, humanity's true might was being readied. Sleek warships, powered by technology reversed engineered from the crashed alien craft, stood poised to launch at a moment's notice. Weapons that could reduce mountains to ash were carefully calibrated, waiting for the signal to unleash their power. As the appointed hour approached, Elena found herself standing on the steps of the UN, flanked by a coalition of world leaders. The sky above New York shimmered with holographic distortion, presenting an image of a smog-choked city dependent on fossil fuels rather than the clean, hyper-efficient metropolis it had become. With a sound like rolling thunder, the Imperial shuttle descended. Elena's heart pounded in her chest as the craft touched down, its gleaming hull a stark contrast to the deliberately shabby surroundings. The shuttle's hatch hissed open, and Zarkesh emerged, flanked by a contingent of guards. The alien emissary's eyes darted about, taking in the scene before him. "Welcome to Earth," Elena said, bowing low. "We are humbled by your presence and eager to learn of our place in the Grand Imperium." Zarkesh's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sound Elena now recognized as laughter. "Oh, you primitive creatures have no idea what's in store for you," the alien said, not bothering to hide his disdain. "Your world will make an excellent mining colony. Those of you strong enough may even earn the right to serve as laborers." Elena forced herself to maintain a placid expression, even as rage boiled inside her. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw several world leaders struggling to contain their own anger. "We would be honored to serve the Imperium in any capacity," Elena managed to say, her words dripping with false sincerity. As Zarkesh launched into a grandiose speech about the glory of the Imperium, Elena's mind raced. Every moment the aliens spent believing in Earth's weakness was another moment for their true defenses to be perfected. Suddenly, a commotion erupted at the edge of the gathering. Elena's blood ran cold as she saw a group of protesters pushing through the security cordon, waving signs denouncing the alien presence. "What is the meaning of this?" Zarkesh demanded, his earlier amusement replaced by irritation. Elena thought fast. "Forgive us, emissary," she said quickly. "Some of our people are overly excitable. They don't understand the honor you do us with your presence." The alien's eyes narrowed dangerously. "See that they are dealt with," he hissed. "The Imperium does not tolerate dissent." As security forces moved to disperse the protesters, Elena caught the eye of General Hammond, hidden among the crowd. He gave an almost imperceptible nod. The protesters were, in fact, part of their plan, a calculated risk to make their ruse more convincing. But as she turned back to Zarkesh, ready to continue their deadly game of deception, Elena couldn't shake a feeling of foreboding. How long could they maintain this charade? And what would happen when the Imperium inevitably discovered the truth? The bluff of the century was underway, but the real battle for Earth's survival was just beginning. Turning the tables. The cavernous war room beneath the Rocky Mountains hummed with tension. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a holographic display of the solar system, watching as dozens of red dots, Imperial ships, blinked into existence at its edges. "They're here," she breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. General Hammond stepped up beside her, his face grim. "Right on schedule. Seems our little charade bought us the time we needed after all." Elena nodded, thinking back to the nerve-wracking weeks that had followed the Imperial envoy's visit. Maintaining the illusion of Earth's technological inferiority had been a constant struggle, with countless close calls and near discoveries. But somehow, against all odds, they had managed to keep up the deception. "Status report," Hammond barked, jolting Elena from her reverie. A young lieutenant's voice rang out clear and steady. "All systems are go, sir. Operation Lazarus is ready to initiate on your command." Elena took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. Everything they had worked for, every sleepless night and ethical compromise, had led to this moment. "Let's hope it's enough," she murmured. As if on cue, the main screen flickered to life, revealing the sneering face of Zarkesh, the Imperial emissary. "People of Earth," he began, his voice dripping with condescension, "your period of grace has come to an end. The full might of the Galactic Imperium now stands ready to claim what is ours by right of conquest. Surrender now, and your suffering may be minimized." Elena stepped forward, playing her role one last time. "Emissary Zarkesh," she said, forcing a tremor into her voice. "Surely there must be some mistake. We have complied with all of the Imperium's demands. We have prepared our world for integration into your glorious empire." Zarkesh's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Oh, you foolish creature. Did you really believe we would allow a species as primitive as yours to join us as equals? No, your world will be stripped of resources, your people enslaved or eradicated as we see fit. The Imperium's hunger is endless, and your Earth will sate it, for a time." Elena's eyes narrowed, all pretense of subservience vanishing. "I was hoping you'd say something like that," she said, her voice cold and clear. "General Hammond, you may proceed." The alien's multifaceted eyes widened in surprise, but before he could respond, the transmission cut off. "Operation Lazarus is a go," Hammond announced. "All units, execute your orders." Across the solar system, humanity's hidden strength revealed itself. The moon's surface shimmered and faded, holographic camouflage deactivating to reveal a massive military installation. Mars' polar ice caps split open, disgorging swarms of sleek fighter craft. And in the asteroid belt, what appeared to be lifeless rocks suddenly came to life, unfolding into heavily armed battle stations. On Earth, cities shimmered and changed as the planetary holographic network deactivated. Skyscrapers stretched higher, incorporating technologies far beyond what the Imperium had been led to believe possible. And from hidden bunkers and undersea bases, humanity's fleet rose to meet the alien armada. In orbit, the Imperial ships reeled in confusion. What they had assumed would be a routine subjugation had suddenly become a battle for survival. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta," Alina ordered, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Activate the phase drive." The pride of Earth's fleet, a massive dreadnought christened the EDS Defiant, shimmered and seemed to fade from view. Seconds later, it reappeared inside the Imperial formation, its weapons blazing. Zarkesh's voice crackled over the comm, panic evident in his tone. "What treachery is this? How dare you conceal your true nature from the Imperium?" Alina allowed herself a grim smile. "You came to our world with threats of enslavement and genocide, Zarkesh. Did you really think we'd just roll over and accept that fate? Humanity has faced extinction before. We've looked into the abyss and clawed our way back. And now we're ready to show the galaxy what we're truly capable of." As she spoke, the battle raged across the solar system. Earth's ships, though outnumbered, fought with a ferocity that caught the Imperium completely off guard. The phase drive technology, reverse-engineered from the crashed alien ship and perfected in secret, allowed human vessels to slip past enemy defenses with ease. But it wasn't just technological superiority that gave humanity an edge. Years of preparing for this moment had honed Earth's military into a force unlike anything the Imperium had faced before. Tactics that leveraged the unique properties of the solar system. Slingshot maneuvers around planets, ambushes from within the rings of Saturn, kept the alien forces constantly off balance. In the war room, Alina watched the battle unfold with a mixture of pride and horror. The loss of life on both sides was staggering, but for the first time since learning of the Imperium's existence, she allowed herself to believe that humanity might actually survive this. "Doctor," a voice called out urgently. "We're detecting a massive energy buildup in the Imperial flagship. It looks like they're preparing to use some kind of superweapon." Alina's mind raced. This had to be the Imperium's trump card, a last-ditch effort to turn the tide of battle. "General Hammond, we need to take out that flagship now," she said urgently. Hammond nodded grimly. "Agreed, but our forces are spread thin. We don't have anything in range that can punch through their defenses in time." A crazy idea formed in Alina's mind. "Maybe we do," she said, her fingers flying over a nearby console. "Remember that pulse weapon we developed based on the alien data? The one we deemed too unstable for ship-to-ship combat?" Hammond's eyes widened as he realized what she was suggesting. "You want to use the orbital defense grid, but at that power level, it could have catastrophic consequences for Earth's atmosphere. If that Imperial superweapon fires, we won't have an atmosphere left to worry about," Alina countered. "It's a risk we have to take." After a moment's hesitation, Hammond gave the order. Around the Earth, massive electromagnetic coils hidden in orbital satellites began to charge. The air itself seemed to crackle with energy. "Pulse weapon charge," reported a technician. "Ready to fire on your command." Alina took a deep breath. Fire. A blinding flash lit up the sky as a concentrated electromagnetic pulse lashed out from Earth, spearing towards the Imperial flagship. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like a balloon popping in slow motion, the massive alien ship began to break apart. A cheer went up in the war room, but Elena's relief was short-lived. The destruction of their flagship seemed to drive the Imperial forces into a frenzy. The battle intensified, with losses mounting on both sides. Hours blended together as the conflict raged on. Elena found herself making decisions that would haunt her for years to come, weighing the lives of Earth's defenders against the survival of the entire human race. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, a lieutenant called out, "The Imperial fleet is in retreat. They're falling back past Neptune's orbit." A stunned silence fell over the war room, broken only by the beeping of consoles and the ragged breathing of exhausted personnel. They had done it. Humanity had stood against the full might of the Galactic Imperium and emerged victorious. But as Elena looked around at the faces of her colleagues, some jubilant, others shell-shocked, she knew that this was only the beginning. The Imperium now knew Earth's true strength, and they would return, likely with an even larger force. "Well done, everyone," she said, her voice hoarse from hours of issuing orders. "But let's not celebrate just yet. We've won the battle, but the war has only just begun." As the implications of their victory sank in, Elena turned her gaze back to the holographic display of the solar system. The red dots representing the Imperial ships were retreating, but she could almost feel the weight of the entire galaxy pressing down upon Earth. They had turned the tables on the Imperium, but the greatest challenges still lay ahead. Humanity had announced its presence on the galactic stage in the most dramatic way possible. Now, they would have to be ready for whatever came next. Galactic repercussions. The starship EDS Horizon glided silently through the inky void of deep space, its sleek hull a testament to how far humanity had come in the years since the Battle of Sol. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the swirling colors of a nearby nebula. It was beautiful, serene, and possibly hiding an Imperial ambush. "Anything on sensors, Lieutenant Chen?" she asked, not taking her eyes off the view. "Nothing yet, Doctor," Chen replied, her fingers dancing over the holographic controls. "But in this soup, they could be right on top of us before we knew it." Elena nodded grimly. The nebula was both a blessing and a curse. It obscured their approach to the rendezvous point, but it could just as easily hide enemy ships. 5 years had passed since humanity had shocked the Galactic Imperium by repelling their invasion force. 5 years of frantic preparation, of pushing the boundaries of science and engineering, of forging alliances with other species who saw in Earth a chance to break free from Imperial rule. And now, deep in contested space, they were about to take their boldest step yet. A soft chime from the communications console broke the tense silence. "Incoming transmission," announced the comms officer. "It's using the encryption protocols we were given." Elena took a deep breath. "Put it through." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a face that still haunted Elena's dreams. But where once Zarkesh's features had been twisted with arrogance and cruelty, now they were marked by weariness. And was that hope? "Dr. Rodriguez," the former Imperial emissary said, his mandibles clicking softly. "I was beginning to fear you wouldn't come." "We keep our promises, Zarkesh," Elena replied coolly. "Unlike some." The alien flinched at the barb, but pressed on. "I have upheld my end of the bargain. The Imperial fleet movements I provided allowed your forces to win decisive victories in the Proxima and Sirius systems. Surely that has earned some measure of trust." Elena's eyes narrowed. "Trust is a luxury we can't afford right now. But we're here, aren't we? Now, you said you had information that could change the course of this war. Let's hear it." Zarkesh leaned closer to the camera, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "The Imperium is fracturing. Your victories, impossible as they should have been, have inspired rebellion across a dozen sectors. But it's more than that. There are whispers, rumors of an ancient threat stirring at the galaxy's edge. The Imperial High Command is dividing its forces, leaving key systems vulnerable. And you're just giving us this information out of the goodness of your heart? Elena asked skeptically. Pragmatism, Doctor, Zarkesh replied. I've seen what your species is capable of. I believe you may be the galaxy's best hope for survival against what's coming. But you'll need allies, resources. I can help you acquire both. Before Elena could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. Multiple contacts dropping out of FTL. Lieutenant Chen shouted. Imperial signatures. It's a trap. Elena snarled, turning back to the screen. But Zarkesh looked as shocked as she felt. No, this isn't me. He protested. It must be. Of course. They followed me. Fool that I am. I led them right to you. Elena's mind raced. They were outgunned, outmatched. But maybe. Zarkesh, she said urgently, if you meant what you said about helping us, now's the time to prove it. Transmit your command codes to our ship. Maybe we can buy ourselves some time. The alien hesitated for only a moment before nodding. Seconds later, a stream of data flowed into the Horizon's computers. All hands, battle stations, Elena ordered. And get me a channel to the Imperial flagship. The view screen split, showing both Zarkesh and a stern-faced Imperial commander. Before the commander could speak, Elena cut in. This is Dr. Elena Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force. By the authority granted to me by Emissary Zarkesh, I order you to stand down and withdraw from this sector immediately. The commander's eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed in suspicion. Impossible. Zarkesh is a traitor, stripped of all rank and. Check your command protocols, Elena interrupted. Unless you're willing to risk disobeying a direct order from a superior. For a tense moment, the commander was silent. Elena held her breath, acutely aware of how fragile their deception was. If the Imperial ships opened fire, the Horizon wouldn't stand a chance. Finally, the commander spoke. We will withdraw. But this isn't over, human. The Imperium will. The transmission cut off abruptly as the Imperial ships vanished into FTL. A cheer went up on the bridge, but Elena wasn't ready to celebrate just yet. She turned back to Zarkesh. All right, you've bought yourself some credibility. Now talk. What's this ancient threat you mentioned? Over the next hour, Zarkesh laid out a story that seemed more suited to myth than reality. An elder race, long thought extinct, stirring from eons of slumber at the galaxy's edge. Whispers of world ships that devoured entire star systems for fuel. And at the heart of it all, a terrible secret. The Imperium had known of this threat for centuries, using it as justification for their harsh rule and relentless expansion. They believed that only by uniting the galaxy under their iron fist could we hope to stand against the Devourers, Zarkesh explained. But their methods ensured that half the galaxy would rather side with the threat than with their supposed protectors. Elena's mind reeled at the implications. The war they had been fighting was just a prelude to something far larger, far more terrifying. We need to get this information back to Earth, she said. And we need to warn the other species we've been in contact with. If this threat is real, we're going to need every ally we can get. Zarkesh nodded solemnly. I can help with that. There are resistance movements, splinter factions within the Imperium itself. With the right introductions, you could forge a coalition unlike anything the galaxy has seen. As the Horizon set course for home, Elena found herself pondering the strange twists of fate that had led them to this point. Humanity, once on the brink of enslavement, was now poised to play a pivotal role in a conflict that would determine the fate of the entire galaxy. In the weeks and months that followed, Earth became a hub of frenetic activity. Diplomats from a dozen species converged on the once isolated planet, drawn by the promise of advanced technology and the chance to strike back at their imperial oppressors. Shipyards worked around the clock, churning out vessels that incorporated the best of human ingenuity and alien engineering. And at the heart of it all was the newly formed Galactic Defense Council, with Elena as one of its key members. As she looked out over the assembled representatives, humans standing shoulder to shoulder with beings of all shapes and sizes, she felt a fierce pride in how far they had come. "We face a threat unlike any we have encountered before," she addressed the council. "The Devourers would see our worlds reduced to ash, our peoples enslaved or consumed. But where the Imperium saw only subjects to be ruled, we see allies and equals." She paused, her gaze sweeping the room. "We have all suffered under Imperial rule. We have all known fear and oppression. But we have also known hope, felt the stirring of rebellion in our hearts. Now we have a chance not just to free ourselves, but to save the entire galaxy." The chamber erupted in cheers and alien vocalizations of approval. As Elena stepped back from the podium, she caught Zarkesh's eye. The former Imperial emissary nodded slightly, a gesture of respect. They had a long road ahead, filled with dangers and uncertainties. The Imperium was weakened but not defeated, and the threat of the Devourers loomed on the horizon. But for the first time since learning of humanity's place in a wider, more perilous universe, Elena felt true hope. Earth had survived its trial by fire. Now, tempered by conflict and armed with knowledge and allies, humanity was ready to take its place as defenders of the galaxy. The repercussions of their stand against the Imperium had set in motion events that would reshape the cosmic order. As Elena looked up at the star-filled sky that night, she allowed herself a small smile. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew one thing for certain: humanity's adventure among the stars was only just beginning.